Hey there, guys. Brian here, and man, do we have a great show planned for you. So stick with us, and we're going to jump right into it. On this episode of the Texas Country Day podcast, we have Terry McBride and Ray Herndon from McBride The Ride. Well, hey there, guys. Brian here with Texas Country Today podcast, and I got my trusty partner here with me, Dusty Moats, and man, do we have a killer episode for you today. It was originally planned to be just an interview, but man, we had so much fun talking that time just kind of got away from us, and we were like, you know what, we're just going to turn this into one of our podcast episodes, and it worked out perfect. But before I get into our guests, I got to tell you about our sponsors real quick. Our Watson boots are making some of the best boots you can find anywhere, and I mean anywhere. And I used to be part of a company that made boots, and I'm telling you, these are great boots. Texas Select Beverage Company is making some killer drinks, non-alcoholic beverages, and they are just some of the best around. Teas, coffees, root beers, lemonades, all that good stuff. Josh Sharp over at Sharp Supply Leather Company making these outstanding guitar straps. And I actually just saw, if you've ever seen Randy Brown in concert, he's got kind of a Waylon Jennings leather-wrapped Stratocaster, and all I know is that thing, I think he said it had 288 yards of leather lacing on it, and Josh did it all, and he did an amazing job giving it kind of a refresh. Josh is a very talented guy. And then last but definitely not least, smithmusic.com, the pioneers of music distribution, online distribution, and the original founders of the Live from Billy Bob's album, which changed the spectrum of live music here in Texas. So without further ado, McBride and the Ride, how you guys doing today? I'm so excited to have you guys on.
Hey guys.
Hey, we're good. We're 2/3 of the band. We got one guy's not able to hook up for some reason, but we'll move on.
We're missing Billy, but we got Ray Herndon and we got Terry McBride with us. So man, you guys have been super busy out there. You got 5 singles in not so long a time that have been released out there. So you must be doing something right.
Well, recording music, which is a first for us in about 20 years. You know, last project we did was an album. What was it, Ray? Like 2002, I think.
Yeah.
An album called Amarillo Sky that people know because of Jason Aldean, but we actually cut that song and that record 2 or 3 years before he actually got it. But we were really proud of that record. And then we toured a little bit. We tried to get back on radio. We were on a small label, Dual Tone, at the time, and we had a little bit of success, but you know, it was tough. And we've always been busy and doing other things. We've always stayed busy. Ray's, he's got a club out in Scottsdale that takes up a lot of his time. He's also been recording and traveling with Lyle Lovett for about 50 years. Cool. How long, Ray? Like mid 80s anyway.
Respect.
That's cool. And then Billy's been with Vince Gill since even back with McBride and the Ride. Billy was singing on those singles, Little Liza Jane, and just doing a lot of stuff, playing drums. Billy played drums on Hillbilly Rock, that Marty Stewart album that was really popular back in the day. For your fans that might remember some of that stuff. So, I was on the road with Brooks and Dunn for 13 years, writing songs, and somehow they talked me into being in the band for a couple of years, and I finally quit that. But they were winding down anyway.
Sure.
But so yeah, we've all been busy, and then we've always been in touch. We've always stayed in touch, and I went out to Scottsdale about 3 years ago or so now. Ray, who knows? There's a beautiful theater out there called the Musical Instrument Museum, the MIM, they call it. And I invited Ray to come out, and then I got him up that night and sang. I was just doing a solo singer-songwriter kind of show. We sang Sacred Ground. it was just a lot of fun. The crowd loved it, and then we started talking, and that kind of got the ball rolling, and about possibly maybe getting back together. Then we came together here in Nashville, and we booked a little tour, a little run, and then COVID hit, so we shut it down and just talked about it for about a year after that, and then decided let's go in the studio while we do have some downtime. We'll at least, focus on maybe trying to record some new music. And that's kind of, brought us up to where we are today.
Sure. Well, I don't want to take you back, make you feel old or anything, but you guys started in 1989, right? And you were with MCA, is that correct? In 89? And you were kind of formed as a competing band to, what was it, Alabama? Is it who the label was trying to compete with, or how did that kind of form out?
I don't know if they were compete with in particular, but Tony Brown wanted I guess his dream was to have a band for the label because he was vice president of it. He knew the Lyle Lovett stuff because we'd worked together with Lyle Records. He met Terry out in Texas, and he gave me a call on the phone one day because I wasn't going to tour with Lyle that summer of about 1990, I think it was. And he said, Ray, Tony Brown. When Tony Brown calls you on the phone out of the blue, it gets your attention. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And he said, man, I got an idea for this band, and I hear you're not touring with Lyle and this summer. And I said, yeah, that's right. He said, well, let me tell you my thought. He said, I met this guy in Texas that has some songs. And I know you want to do more than be a sideman with Lyle Lovett. And he said, so I have my two main guys, and would you be interested? I said, hell yes. So he said, after the conversation, just about after, he said, well, I'd like you to reconsider going out with Lyle because I think it'd help this band, getting this band going. I said, okay, I guess I'm going. So I went with Lyle. I went out there and I met Terry in Austin for the first time, and we hit it off. And next thing I knew, they flew us to Nashville. Both, I was in Phoenix, Terry was in Austin. Flew us both to Nashville. We met Billy Thomas for the first time, and then we all hit it off. And then we met Steve Fischel, who was going to be a fourth member. So basically, Tony had wanted to start this super group with guys like Larry London and Albert Lee and guys like that. Just, as a musician himself, he thought it would be a cool thing to have for the label. He could never get those guys all together in one place at one time. So the next best thing was to put together a bunch of guys that didn't know each other, and that was us. And so when we met in Nashville for the first time, we got together and rehearsed and worked up some of the songs that Terry had written with some folks from Austin, Bill and Ruth. And they just came together like that. And Tony offered us a record deal right then, literally the first day. He said, you guys got a deal if you want it. We're like, let me think. Okay. And so the Alabama, I don't know where the Alabama thing came from, but I remember our first manager saying, you guys are going to be the next Alabama.
So that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
We'll take that.
I forget where I saw the quote, but
yeah, I've seen that in the press. They were the high water mark at
Sure.
the time, of course, as far as bands. And so everybody was comparing us to we had a lot of press saying this was going to be the next Alabama, because they were just the most popular band. And Tony Brown was instrumental in signing Alabama too. That was one of his very first big, feathers in his cap, which he later went on to be the uber producer for every number one song in country music there for about 20 years, from George to Reba to Winona to Vince, all those Vince. And of course, Billy Tony was using him on some of those Vince records. And so Tony was making a list. He knew Ray through Lyle. He knew Billy through Emmylou, which is where he was playing with Emmylou Harris at the time. But he was singing on those Vince records. So he was just making a list, sort of a wish list of, if I could put a band together, who would I put in it? And that's what he did. And we all came together and we started rehearsing. Like Ray said, they put us up in this rehearsal hall, and then it was just like we had to play like the same 4 or 5 songs about 20 times because they'd bring a manager in, an agent in, a lawyer in. It's like, what the hell? And by the end of the day,
rehearsal was over after about the first hour, and we worked up the songs. All the rest of the rehearsal was playing the songs for those guys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, over and over and over. We had people bringing beer in. I remember the guy that was managing like Hank Jr. I was like, we didn't know what was going on. It was crazy, man, because that was our first single came out in 1990, but our first hit didn't happen until 91. Can I Count on You? We had a couple singles that just didn't take off, and as a last ditched attempt to kind of do something with us, Tony released this simple country song, Can I Count on You, which the label had tested. It was the least testing song on the album. They told us this song will never make it. And there you have it. The rest is country western history.
Let me guess. Felicia was probably the one that tested off the charts. I never understood why that song. So that was my first exposure to you guys, and I did the cover band circuit for years. That was like our opening song for like 15 years in a row. Man. And I never understood why that never
Dusty,
did. We did better, right?
Oh, we thought we had a hit,
Dude,
man. That was our second single. It just did not connect. I don't know why, because still today it's one of those songs that people request on socials or whatever. But yeah, we still play it. We still like playing that song. It still rocks. You know?
You guys have.
But I remember
go ahead.
Tony Brown sat us down and me one day in the office. I know for sure, and he's like, "Okay, boys, here's your competition." He turned on the television, and it was Kentucky Headhunters, Walk Softly on This Heart of Mine. No. And I went, dang. So that's where we were kind of doing the Felicia thing to try to get something in that vein, sort of a stomping type of tune that was a little more heavy and very guitar lick oriented, But I hear you. That's just what happens. We were the baby act, and no one knew us. They put us out on this big radio tour. We got a big old bus and took management and promotion team and went door to door all across the country. And, in the room, we were doing well. We were pretty capable of pulling stuff off acoustically. And so we were knocking some people out. I remember we went out to Bakersfield and they put us in a conference room, just us and Buck Owens, Buck at the end of the table and us at the other end. And we played our 2 or 3 songs and he goes, you know what, guys? He goes, man, y'all look good. You sound good. He goes, I don't know if you're going to make it or not. So we left there going, damn, I don't know if we're going to make it or not either now, because Buck Owens isn't even sure. But fortunately, they ended up playing the heck out of our songs there at that station, Cuz and Bakersfield. But yeah, it was an interesting journey. We were just thrown into it, and like you said, those first singles, every step of the way was the first single. It did okay, but not much. And then Felicia just barely even got any attention at all. So we thought, we're done. That's it. We're not even going to make it. And Can I Count on You? The video was real sweet and tender. It really took off. And then that was back in the day where the Nashville Network had a video show. You could actually call in, write in.
That.
And we had the longest running video in heavy rotation that year. And then we won a CMT award. They were just getting started, about that time. And that video really saved us. And then stations started playing it. And we ended up selling some records. And we ended up making another album, which was Sacred Ground, the next album.
That's what I was about to say. That Can I Count on You kind of set a trajectory for the style of music that you guys became known for. Because Sacred Ground is really a similar song to Can I Count on You, and got a chance to showcase your vocals. And man, dude, y'all's harmonies are like blood harmonies. It's like, I remember as a cover band, we aspired to have vocals of that nature. And when I think, dude, I recorded Rosewood and Tyler and a couple other studios here. And when we talk about what we want vocal sounds to sound like, you guys are referenced on a regular basis. So when I hear you guys talk about y'all are a bunch of just knuckleheads that got thrown together, man, it legitimately, it's kind of funny to hear that. So it speaks a lot of volume to your talent. Out of those two albums, you had a really big, Sacred Ground was big, Going Out of My Mind was great. And then of course, Just One Night was kind of an unexpected hit for you guys, right? I think. Out of those four songs that you talked about, which one's probably the one you enjoyed playing the most? Because I know I have my personal favorite, right?
What do you think, Ray? We still enjoy playing all of them, really. It's fun. We still work on them, those harmony parts. Like I said, the cool thing, Dusty, and Brian, we were thrown together as this super group. Everybody, I've been playing with Delbert McClinton, everybody, Ray been in the studio. We'd all been playing. We thought we're going to be badass band, but not until we started singing did we realize we had this bonus of this harmony. Billy is the epitome he's the high harmony guy you want in your band. He's that tenor guy. Ray is a big old warm baritone voice, and then I'm right there in the middle. So when we started singing, we couldn't believe it. So we just started really focusing, like, Can I Count on You, such a simple 3-chord song, but that chorus just lent itself to this harmony that, just like you said, it got us on a path that we had to continue, because once Can I Count on You took off, that's all they wanted to talk about was the harmony, So we followed that up with the Same Old Star, fortunately, these songs, I've written down in Texas, they just had that harmony. And I grew up on that stuff, whether it was Poco or Eagles or whatever, harmony kind of thing was just so cool back in the day. Hardly even exists now. But the thing about Just One Night, I'd written that song, by myself, but I was still young, and I was a little naive, and kind of, I shared it with the label person who was working with us, Renee Bell, who sent me Sacred Ground in the mail on a cassette when I was living in Austin still. She's like, listen to this. Sounds like something you might have written, And then, so I wrote this Just One Night. I sent it to her, and she flipped. So I said, well, I got to play it for the guys, So we were up in Chicago, Pheasant Run, opening for the Judds. And I had Billy and Ray come in. I said, man, I want to play you this song, and you let me know what you think about it, So I played it. We worked it up in the room that day. We played it that night and got a standing ovation that night. We had never played it before. So we went, man, this song might work, So it's still, we usually close our show with it because it just really strips it down and focuses just on the harmony and what we were kind of known for back in the day,
Of course, it was one of those songs, too, that the label was like, I don't think
I know.
it'd be as great.
It's so slow. I don't know. They went like, it's third person. What is this song about? Because I said, well, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious what it's about, but there's no denying how it affected and how it the reaction we got from the crowd. You can't beat that, and you can't make that happen. It's either going to happen or it doesn't, and the first time we played it, we went, wow, but that's what we were doing. We were playing Sacred Ground before it ever came out. And man, the audience was just like, ooh, they were reacting big time,
Well,
same with Marlboro later, all these years later. Same thing with Marlboros and Avon. We played it live, and we saw that reaction from the crowd, like we ground, and that sort of
I'm a little bit younger than the rest of you guys, and so when you guys were forming, I mean, I was in elementary school, and I'm leaving it at that. But that doesn't mean I'm not any less of a fan. But so my biggest exposure to you guys, you were talking about the Nashville Network, and a lot of people listening now may not remember Great American Country that they had on there. The Nashville Network used to do all this stuff way before CMT.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But I remember you guys did a cover of Saturday Night Special, and later I
on.
hate to admit it, but I was one of those idiots when LimeWire first came out. Man, that was one of my, like, every time I had to find that one that didn't have like that somebody put on there. But man, I grew up in a little town western Nebraska where we had one radio station. They played the farm commodities majority of the time on the radio and not music, and so we were kind of musically inept, I guess you could say. But man, I agree with Dusty. Like, there was a couple bands that, I can remember that were harmonically, close to you guys at the time, but they all kind of compared themselves to you, and it was like Lone Star, and it was Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and all those guys kind of compared their vocals to McBride The Ride. So,
well, I think, go ahead, Terry.
Oh, those bands were just popular back then, though. We loved Restless Heart.
Restless Heart.
Alabama. We toured when we did the Judds tour. We didn't even have like first single out, no hit. We came on it like sun was still up, blazing hot. People trying to find their seats, and we were out there trying to win them over. But man, it'll make you a better band by going through those situations. You got 15,000 seats and there are a few thousand people milling around talking, and we had to get their attention, and up next would be Restless Heart, or Highway 101. And it just kind of went on and on. But during our period, all of a sudden that early 90s, man, these vocal groups just exploded. They were everywhere. A lot of them didn't make it, but boy, there were a bunch of them there during that period. Now doesn't even exist really anymore, but it was a great time looking back, and still to this day. We're just fortunate. Aren't many bands that make it, aren't many bands that ever come back. And if they do, it's never the same lineup, but it's all the same guys. We've even used two steel players. Gary Morse was our first steel player on the road with us for a long time. He's out with Brooks and Dunn. We used him during this reunion tour as well, but now we have Bruce Boughton, who's like an 18 session guy. Bruce has played on every Garth, Brooks and Dunn, McBride The Ride. We took Bruce out on the road with us back in 91. And now he's back out on the road with us. We're going in the studio with him on the 8th, cutting these new tunes with Bruce. And we're just fortunate to have that caliber of a player that loves and still enjoys going out on the road and works really hard. I mean, he's really part of the group. He gets with Ray. They work on these parts together. It's never ending. We watch what we're doing and how it sounds and how we want to sound. And, we're still sounding pretty good, but we still work at it really hard.
I just thought of this. The funny part about Bruce is first time I heard Bruce Boughton was with Ricky Skaggs back in the day when Ricky was just coming
burning
out.
It.
And Bruce was burning it up. I saw him here at the Celebrity Theater with Ricky. And, Ricky had just splashed the whole country scene with his first record. And Bruce and Ray Flack were the guitar skill on that. And I was just sitting here thinking, Bruce and Ray again. It's a different Ray. But I was a fan of Bruce's way back then. And when he had a mullet, he had nothing on top, but he had a mullet.
That's funny.
Yeah, that party in the back.
No business in the front, but the party's in the back. Yeah.
What did Bruce call it? A skullet.
That's awesome. Guys, that kind of brings us to where we're at now. You had 5 albums in about 12 years. And man, I know, Terry, you were talking about, and I heard both of you guys talk about this, about how it's kind of a lost art with harmonies. What we're seeing locally and, of course, nationally, too, man, there's a bunch of 90s tribute bands. A lot of that was started by Dierks Bentley doing that little weird stuff he does out on tour where he's doing 90s covers and doing the mullet. But what you're seeing is a resurgence, and I'm sure this dates myself a little bit, too, but you're seeing a reflection period, which I think is allowing guys, even though you're kind of getting back together, a transition even after all these years, not a resurgence of your career, but adding another layer because people are really starting to look at 90s country and what it really did. You're seeing all these younger artists covering all these songs and doing all these songs. What's it like for you guys now from last album in 2002, and it's 21 years, and you're kind of going back doing this, the traditional same good McBride the Ride vocals, style of music. Dude, the album is reminiscent to me of the songs that I've heard Marbles and Avon are reminiscent to the songs you're releasing on those 5 albums. So it's 100% McBride the Ride. For both of you guys, what's it like coming back and doing this now?
Well, for us, we're just doing what we do. I don't know that we're trying to recreate anything. You know what I mean? The songs have just come to us. Marlboros and Avon, Terry can tell you that story, but it came to us as a song from a guy in Texas. Thought it sounded like McBride the Ride. When we recorded it, we just recorded it as a 4-piece band, and we tried to stay true to that 4-piece band sound, which is what we do. We want to be able to recreate it live. And so that's what kind of we did in the studio with all the songs we recorded this time around, is to kind of keep it 4-piece, even though we added a B3 and I put some acoustic guitars on it. We can still recreate that stuff as a 4-piece band without the B3 and without the acoustics. But we're just doing what we do. We've been writing songs together. We've all written songs all these years as well. When I moved to Nashville, that's what I concentrated on as well, writing songs. And so coming together as a band now and writing more together, which is what we're sort of trying to do more of. Go in the studio, record them. The harmonies are a signature for us, so that's what we do a lot. But we also play. We're also players, and not just singers. A lot of times it's the singers they better hire guys to play on the record. But we've always played on the records, sang on the records ourselves. So this time around, we did all that. We produced the songs, found the songs, recorded the songs, and now we're out playing the songs. So it's really a band's band.
Yeah, we're the label, we're the A&R department, we're everything. But
I think it's awesome.
But we kind of
awesome.
Well, we kind of like it that way, Dusty. I mean, in a way, nothing to take away from what our experiences that we had, because really, thanks to Tony Brown, we had like carte blanche. He's like, you guys get the songs, bring them in here. Let's see what you can come up with. You know, we had a little direction there. And then we were also listening constantly and being pitched a lot of songs. Sacred Ground was an outside song. You know, we were smart enough to cut it. Thank goodness. We were talking about some of the other songs we passed on. The Achy Breaky Heart, we passed on that. But we didn't know how to dance, so that would have never happened for us. Two of a Kind, working on a full house. We got pitched that first early on. I mean, we liked that song, but it was so honky tonk. I remember at the time I brought in the honky tonk song, which we just cut on this EP, Webb Pierce, 1958, you know. And I love that song. And when we were putting the band back together, I was going through, I don't throw anything out. This little house I was telling you about, it has everything, including all of our cassettes that we were pitched back in the 90s. I have boxes of them. I mean, hundreds of them. So I went through there and I found this little white cassette. It said Santa Fe Junction, San Angelo, Texas, 1991. And it was a live board tape from Santa Fe Junction in San Angelo. And on it was the honky tonk song. And I'd forgotten how good our version of it was. So we worked that back up. But I remember we were doing it live, and at the time, management was like, that honky tonk thing. They didn't like that direction. They didn't like that vibe. They wanted us to be a little more like everybody else, you know, contemporary.
Terry, do you remember we even tried to record that song?
Yeah.
And said, nah, I don't hear it.
I don't like it. I don't think it. Yeah, I brought in Green Snakes on the Ceiling, Johnny Bush, you know, and I thought we're going to cut that, you know, we're going to do a cool version. And nobody got that. Nobody could even grasp it. So we kind of shelled that more honky tonk stuff. And, you know, like going out of my mind, I mean, I did write that with Costas. It's a little more of our contemporary country kind of vibe. And I get it. You know, we were trying to get on radio at the time, and we're successful, you know, with songs like that. So they're still special. We still love doing those. But now that we can do whatever the heck we want, we're really going back and doing some of these things that we missed out on, including honky tonk song and things like that, including this Christmas song. It's a very honky tonk Christmas song is what it's going to be.
Exciting.
But yeah, it's really it's a fun. It's clever. I've been working on it. I know, Ray, we've all been working on it, but we're going into the Castle Studio here in Franklin. It's a historical, wonderful tracking room. It's where Alan Jackson cut every one of those hits that we all loved back in the day, you know, and they've had everybody from Miley Cyrus to whoever is tracked there. It's out here in Franklin, but we're just going to hold up there on the 8th. And we've got a really cool song that we wrote the Christmas song together, and we wrote a song with our friend Jeffrey Steele, who's a great songwriter, that we're going to record too. Going to cut 2 new songs just to have another single to come, and then have something for you guys to wear out during Christmas.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, this market down here in Texas is really great for original Christmas music, especially in the.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, and I released one last year, and I honestly think it was kind of a game changer for me personally, just because everybody's releasing the same old stuff. And when you write something that's different, everybody wants to hear it. I'm excited to see that. I didn't know you guys hadn't done a Christmas. I would think with your harmonies, you would have had to have done some traditional Christmas song at some point.
We get asked about it all the time, but we thought we'll start here, you know, and gives our fans down in Texas something to listen to. And then we might go back in at some point, because it is the benefit of it. Of course, every year it's something you can throw out there, and then people will be reminded of, especially if you land something cool that you've written, like you were talking about.
You know, the interesting dynamic business-wise, if you guys are doing your own stuff, is, man, for 3 months out of the year, you get a song that winds up on a playlist, and you get bonus streams and all kinds of stuff every year. So the lifespan of a Christmas song is its entire life. It's not just one. Yeah, it's not just one season, right? It's not a 6 month.
I like what you're saying, Dusty. I like the way you're talking.
I played when a couple of years ago, right before COVID. I played with Lyle Levitt and the band opening for George Strait in Las Vegas a couple times for the NFR deal, and we also played with Robert Earl Keen. So we were backing Lyle and Robert, the band, and when Robert did his Christmas song,
Family Christmas, yeah.
We were, and this was, I guess, early December, but I mean, when he did that song, the whole place went nuts. So power of a fun song is pretty amazing.
That song introduced him to a whole brand new audience. Yeah. I mean, people just loved that song.
And Christmas songs are timeless, guys. If you get a good one, it's timeless.
Yeah.
And especially stuff that's honky tonk. Like literally very few artists are doing a kind of up tempo honky tonk song. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys got coming on and what you got.
Yeah, I think you'll dig it. It's pretty funny. It's really clever. I went back and been working on a lot. I added a couple little things I'm going to share with the guys, but it's just simple. A couple little things at the end, but it's going to be good. We're looking forward to it. We're going to bring the sleigh bells in. Billy's been dusting off his sleigh bells, and we're getting ready. I got a gigantic red Christmas tree. I think I might set it up in the studio, but as if we don't have enough to do. But I mean, at the little house, I have a garage back here where we house everything. It's like we still unload a lot of this stuff. We've got a little box truck. Fortunately, we got a young guy that does our socials, and he's also our tour manager. So he's willing to do a lot of stuff. He wears a lot of hats. He drives for us. And then we've got a great sound. Our front of house is from Texas. He lives just outside of Georgetown. Is kind of where he has a place in actually Granger. And he got married. His wife's from Killeen,
Okay.
So, but he's a great guy. He's a guy that my dad knew. He's young. He's younger than me, but when he was a young guy, he would hang out with my dad. My dad had a recording studio in Lampasas, and he got to know my dad really well. And then I got to know him really well. He toured front of house for Leroy Parnell for a long time. He does a lot of stuff. He has a cool studio in Granger, but we're fortunate that he's our front of house. He's just a wonderful person, but he does a great job. He really gets us and all those harmonies and makes us sound good. Yeah, we really did luck out.
With Dominic, the guy that Terry was just saying does the socials, I was just, through this whole last couple of years, when TikTok came along, I would see my fiance's son, Joanne's son, Noah, on this thing. I'm like, what is that TikTok? How could anybody watch it? Well, now I found myself on it all the time. But I mean, there is some interesting stuff. But my point is, I just saw, matter of fact, last night I was scrolling and there comes some McBride The Ride stuff that just pops up, some new stuff. So Dominic, the guy Terry's talking about, young guy, how old is he? 24?
25.
He's just so savvy to all this social media, TikTok, and how to get stuff on there. And
he's a Belmont.
When I saw that stuff, I thought Dominic's been up to getting stuff on TikTok again. So that's
you
good.
Guys are
one of our early.
Go ahead, Terry.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, so you guys are still doing all your individual stuff, right? You're still doing stuff with Lyle and Billy's still doing stuff with Biggs and Terry. You're still doing stuff.
Yeah.
But you guys still find time to tour. You got a couple dates coming up here in Texas, August 4th and 5th, Greenville and Georgetown, and then you're back in Nashville. Then it looks like you finished the year out in Hinton, Oklahoma. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, and then we're going to Missouri too. We're going to do a show with John Michael Montgomery, who we used to tour with a lot.
Is that going to be the family arena
90s.
show, or is that Knuckleheads?
That's it. That's the family arena. And then we're going back to Knuckleheads. We just played there in June. We had a small crowd at Knuckleheads. They had a big outdoor free concert. Who was it? Wade Bowen. I think Wade was there. They killed us that night. But, the owner, to his credit, Frank, he's like, man, you guys put on such a good show. I want you back. Yeah. And so we're going back on a Saturday night. I think that was a Thursday night we played there. But the little crowd was just incredible. And he was knocked out. That's all we can do. 30 years later, all we can do is show up as if there are 15,000 people every time we play. There probably weren't 15 there that night. I mean, there was a little bit more than that, but it's a small crowd, But that's the thing. We feel like we know, we use a barometer. How are we doing? And it's usually moments like that where the guy that's running the venue that has, 250 acts a year, and all of a sudden he's knocked out with our show. That's the best compliment we can get. I mean, we want the fans to love us, of course. That's where it starts. But having a guy like that didn't make any money that night, but still wants you back, that's a pretty good compliment, and lets us know we're doing the right things,
I don't think we mentioned two guys that we're going to be playing at Old Red in Nashville
nice.
on the Bach.
That's it, Brian.
Yep. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
That's
things
our.
there. It's not very often I can read the whole tour schedule in a quick skip. So you guys are on a nice, good pace. But I understand the pace, being that you guys are still doing so much other stuff. Before we hop off here, I wanted to Dusty and I talk a lot about the differences between Texas country music and mainstream music, but you guys are kind of neither, because Texas country music loves the 90s music so much. You know what I mean? One thing that I wanted to kind of point out is every artist that has done anything out of Nashville that I know, and we just sat down with Jamie Richards, who was a staff writer for Curb. I swear, by the time you make it to a record label, you're a country music historian, and I mean that in a good way. Like it's almost like Nashville forces you to learn their the country music history before you can succeed. Is that just something because everybody loves the music so much, or is that just from all the songwriter circles? Where does that come from?
No, I think everybody's different. I've met some young guys that don't know anything, and you'll ask them about artists, they've never even heard of them. And then you'll meet a young guy that knows everything,
Sure.
I think it just comes down to the individual, how hungry you are, how much you've been exposed to country music. I've been working with this young artist, Drake Milligan. He's only 25, but he can name you every single dang George Strait album cut. I mean, he knows it all, from Ray Price to whatever. They're just some kids that are like that. It's their life. It's their world. It's all they eat and sleep and drink. And, it's the way I was. And like Ray was, when we were young, we just hit the ground running. Our parents were in the business, both of us. And we have a lot of similarities. We grew up around it. And then it was up to us. What are you going to do with it? We had an opportunity there. You're going to come on board and learn it and get serious, or are you just going to be a hobby and move on to whatever else, But it was always a part of my life. I wanted to be like my dad. So I learned everything from my dad that I could. He could answer any question. So why wouldn't I ask, and I did constantly. And then growing up in Texas was a hotbed of everything I loved. I grew up 60 miles from Austin, and most of the artists I was really taken with were 60 miles down the road. It was mind blowing, starting with Willie to Jerry Jeff to Doug Somm to Gary Peanut to Ray Wiley Hubbard. I could get in my 72 Chevelle, and an hour later I could be at the Rome Inn seeing Doug Somm with a 10-piece band, or I could be over at the Armadillo World headquarters seeing Willie with the cast of everybody's album that I had at home in high school. It was mind blowing. I mean, it was just unreal that I had worn those albums out, and then here they are, and they're just right. I could touch them, I mean, they're right there. It left an impression on me that has never ended. I had a love affair with music from an early childhood, and I still have it all these years later, still loving it and still enjoying it, and very fortunate because of that. I mean, it comes with a lot of work. It's not all pretty out there, as Ray will attest to. It's like, some of these crowds are small, but we don't let that get to us either. Like the knuckleheads, we could have been divas and, turned our back on the crowd, or why didn't more people come see us? Instead, we embraced the opportunity. We sold some T-shirts and we knocked the owner out, so here we are going back, and that's a small victory, but it's a big part of what we're doing right now,
I think the people, they come to see the band and hear these songs, and they haven't seen us in a long time. Like the owner of Knuckleheads, for instance. I talked to him after the show, and he said, "Man, I got to tell you, you guys impressed me." And that's, like Terry said, that's all we can really hope to do. We've all continued to play, write songs, produce play in the studio all these years, and it's not like any of us have stopped doing it. I moved back to Phoenix from Nashville only because of basically our club here that we've had for 50 years, and I own it now, which I'm not so sure is a great idea, but I do.
What's the name of the club?
It's an iconic. It's the place where Waylon Jennings started playing when he moved from Lubbock, Texas to Phoenix back in the day before he, became a superstar. And
it's called the Handlebar J. That's what it's called.
J. And it's still going strong. I tell the guys too, I get a good barometer of the music scene here because my band plays here on a regular basis, but we also have a DJ that plays, we play a lot of older stuff because that's just what we love to play. I play a lot of Merle Haggard and some, original things too, but then he'll play all the new stuff. So I get to hear all this new music that some of it I've never heard. But I get to see the reaction of the young crowd, and they love what we do and they love that stuff. So there's a nice mix there, but anyway, back to your question, like Terry, I grew up just listening and playing and to all styles of music. My dad was also a country guy. And so I grew up listening to Buck Owens and Merle Haggard. And so I was endeared to that music early on, but also, right down the street from me was Alice Cooper and the Tubes. It's like a different thing, but this is a hotbed for country music as well. As Texas, I mean, Phoenix, Arizona and Texas, the Southwest here. My dad played in a band here years ago. There was a big Western swing band in town in the 50s, so it's just neat to see the resurgence of a lot of this music coming back. I was just telling my fiance yesterday about the song Fast Car. A lot of kids didn't hear that song the first time around when Tracy Chapman came out with it. So they don't even song, and then here's this new guy that pops this song. It's a great song, and then it connects with an artist that makes it stick out in country music,
relevant again, current,
and it's crazy.
Sure. Well, and it's
quick
kind
question,
of funny.
guys. I hope
go ahead,
Brian.
Go ahead, Dusty. Go ahead, Dusty.
Well, man, I know we're kind of getting short on time, and we appreciate the time you had. One of the things, we've got a pretty cool independent artist following. And Terry, you brought something up that you guys are kind of the manager, the road manager, your publicist, your record distributor, your writer. I got a curiosity question, and I think how you guys are dealing with your past experience with labels and with record and with what you're doing now. I think it would be kind of a cool. Back when you started, there was one predominant tastemaker, and that predominant tastemaker was radio. You guys know that radio stations would play it. That's where people were consuming music. If you released a single, they'd hear it, they'd go buy it, they'd go to your live shows. In today's world, where a lot of people, there's a debate on how many there are, but there's actually, in my mind, there's 4 that I know that are huge. You've got radio, you've got streaming. Ray, you brought up TikTok, right? So you got social, and then you got live music. Right. Yeah. You got live. We've got artists from Texas that are killing it live, and then it's feeding their streaming. How are you guys handling that change? Right. Think about your evolution from what you were doing 25, 30 years ago. And what are you seeing that you guys are doing different now? There's some strategy that could be beneficial to some younger artists, right, that you might have to share.
Well, we're not stopping at the truck stop to call radio first thing on a payphone. That's the first thing that's different. I mean, we had that big brick phone in the early 90s, but there weren't enough towers. You still couldn't get reception. So we still had to pull into a truck stop, and we had to call, 6 a.m. radio show back in the day. But Ray and I have discussed this many times. The best we could hope for back then was to be on Nashville Now, a little bit of television, but the main opportunity was radio still. That was the main hope that you had, and that was the way you built your following, other than going live touring, But socials have been a big help for us. We've got people in place that help us with it. We've got a great PR firm. We got our young guy, Dominic, who's knocking on my back door at the moment. So I got to go let him in. Hold on, I'm going to let him in.
Yeah, the social thing is to answer the question, how are we dealing with it? Well, we're out there playing live. We're out there playing live as much as we can. We're doing these social media because we understand that a whole other
crazy,
way.
isn't it?
Music. Yeah, and it's all about the social media. It's all about staying in that world,
Yeah.
and that's what
and taking advantage of it. We could, not be hip to it and not understand it, but thanks to our team and like we were saying, Dominic, who's just showed up, he was like, we got to try some stuff on TikTok. So we just released a couple vintage clips, and about the third one, we got 500,000 likes and views from it. So we went, oh, this could work. This could be, and it's still been like that. We'll throw an old something out there. A current one, we still get some nice response and things like that, and great comments. That's the cool thing about socials, really, are the comments that these fans want to leave. And 30 years later, what that music still means to them, and you can't beat that. It's such a good feeling that people are just still have those moments that they want to share with you, where they were, who they were with. It was either mom and dad, or there's a lot of that. We get those original fans, and then we get their children now, which is crazy, but they're as passionate about this music as their parents were, because it's, means so much to them. It takes them right back to that time in that truck with that cassette or whatever. It's just, it's great that they share that with you as well. That's the beautiful thing about socials. And of course, we needed to promote and let people know what we're doing and how to find us and where to come see us and all that good stuff. But so far, it's a building process, but we're seeing some progress there, and that's like any other business. That's what you hope will happen.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys having us on, because that's exactly what we're talking about. Getting to share with people that we wouldn't normally get to, get out there in front of. But thank you guys, we're here. Yeah. So thank you.
Well, and it definitely increases your reach. I love hearing the fact that you guys are talking about it's your older material, because there's so many connections, like what you were talking about, Terry. People have memories and moments. And, I laugh because you guys have songs that I've listened to and played in cover bands for years, and I remember where I was at. I remember watching people dance to it. I'm 51 years old this year, and music has been just huge for me. And so I think about, I'm kind of been doing this for a while, not at the level you guys are, but I think about how can I get some of my own music out? And I'm challenged with technology, right? I call it technologically challenged. Ask Brian. He can tell you I can barely operate this podcast, but I got to figure it out.
Well, you're smart enough to have someone who can help you. That's kind of what we've done. We don't claim to know everything, but it's good to be smart enough to find people who can help you. And then if you get some people you enjoy working with on top of that, it's really a win-win. That's what we've got. We're small, we're lean and mean. Even with our band, we're only 4-piece. We used to have piano, and the arrangements got bigger, but that original band at the 4-piece, that was kind of special, and it made us a little different looking and sounding, especially. And we've gone back to that because of it. It's just the core of who we were musically and our sound. And just building on that moving forward. We kind of have the design now. We know how to build on it, so we don't have to waste a lot of time experimenting with, bringing in bagpipes or whatever the hell, it's like we know what works for us, and so we can eliminate that. We know what we've got. Now we just got to find the songs that really complement what it is we think we can do, And so moving forward, that's what we're doing. It's just a continuation of what we started 30 years ago.
Well, I'll share this with you. Sure. I opened for you guys at Billy Bob's back in the early 90s on that front stage.
Gosh.
And then I was at the Texas Country Music Awards that y'all performed at this year. And legitimately, what you do translates tremendously in the same manner as it did when I saw you in the 90s, if not better now. And I think a lot. I think that a lot of that has to do. There's a resurgence of that style. I hate the fact that we call it '90s country because, dude, it kind of dates it. But at the end of the day, there's a resurgence of musicality that's coming out right now. The big rock sound that's real popular here in Texas. There are still people wanting honky tonk music that you can dance to. And those 15 people that were at Knuckleheads, which is an amazing venue, y'all know, they're going to tell more, and you're going to have more that were there. Hey, man, you missed a great show. They killed it when nobody was here. So I'm extremely, first off, congratulations on all the years. And second off, you can tell I'm a fan. I'm kind of fanboying you right now. But man, I'm excited to see you guys kicking ass and doing stuff that you're doing and putting some new music out and just throwing that good old McBride and the Ride magic back out on the waves and doing the stuff that you're doing. I'm really excited for you guys.
Well, thanks, Dusty. Man, we appreciate that. You too, Brian. We appreciate your comments, and especially for having us on today, letting us talk about whatever. But yeah, appreciate that excitement. It gets us inspired to continue, and it's been a big part of what we're doing. If we were doing this and nothing was coming from it, or nobody was getting excited about it, it probably wouldn't have lasted very long. But the fact that we can see people enjoying it and getting excited about it, coming to see us, and that just fuels the fire that we've still got.
That's awesome.
Well, sure. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So, Ray, Terry, is there anything left that you want to say about your upcoming tour, the music you're putting out, anything you want people to look out for?
Man, I don't know. I think we covered a lot of it. Yeah. Follow us. You can find us, McBride and the Ride. We're, whatever you like to follow, we're on there, and McBrideandtheride.com. You can take a look at our touring and what's coming up. There's a little bit of information on there too, and our YouTube channel is really continuing to grow. All of the videos from the past are on there. All of the clips behind the scenes, the Crook and Chase and the Ralph Emery Nashville Now, those are on there. The mullets are on full display.
They can even order a t-shirt or a hat. I mean, Ride and the Ride swag is on there too. So
that's right.
That always helps us keep that going down the road.
We're fortunate to have some cool merch with our old logo from the early 90s. People still like that. We've got it on our T-shirts and our caps and koozies and all that stuff you got to have. But it's great to see fans wearing those and sharing those photos. That's pretty cool. A lot of fans that still have their T-shirts from the 90s. They share those photos too. Pretty cool. They bring them and wear them to the show, which is really cool.
Last question,
awesome. Well,
real quick, and this is my favorite one. Is there any chance of you guys bringing back the hair that you had off of your Burning Up the Road album? That is absolutely priceless. Kind of the pervy mullet, right? If you do, please give us the first look. That's any plans for that?
Well, Dusty, we've taken that photo from that album cover. That's one of our T-shirts, just because cool. That's a pretty classic McBride and the Ride look from back in the day. But yeah, people constantly sharing those mullet photos from back in the day. I don't know. I still have some of my hair, but it's not quite there like it was. But who knew that would come back? I mean, my God.
Hey,
yeah. You passed on Achy Breaky Heart. Did you pass on I Want My Mole Back too?
Yeah, right.
Well, if you guys are anything like me,
kidding.
I kind of have the skullet thing going on. Now you know why I have a hat on. I had hair back when I was hanging out in those places back then. I don't have any hair anymore. Eli the hat.
Oh, that's wild. That's wild. Those Billy Bob days, man. That was something else back then. Those crowds were amazing, man. Yeah, that front stage. I remember that the whole room, the whole scene. It was just so much fun, man. And we're still having fun. So that's the big part of why we're out here doing this right now.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Terry, Ray, and Dusty, thanks for joining me today on Texas Country Day Radio. And man, huge fan. I can tell Dusty a fan for sure. But
well, appreciate you guys very much.
Well, thank you.
We enjoyed it. Thanks for having.
The 70s were raging on. I was a teenage kid moving on to high school. TV, music, and drive-in screens set the stage for life and dreams in a small town. Was Dad's arm out the window of that blue Mercury Marquis? Was Mom making us kids settle down, yelling from the front seat? Memories and pictures take me back, live on. shoes. Walter Cronkite on in our living rooms, and the war in Vietnam. CCR and the Rolling Stones fading in and out on that car stereo as we went flying down the road. Was Dad's arm out the window of that blue Mercury Marquis? Was Mom making us kids settle down, yelling from the front seat? Memories and pictures take me back. Live on. I'll never forget the smell of Marlboros and Avon. It's been a lot of summers since '73. Looking back now, I can still see Dad's arm out the window of that blue Mercury Marquis, and Mom making us kids settle down, yelling from the front seat. Memories and pictures take me back.